What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bilbrons and Dragons. I'm your host, Bilbron Bafflestone. So today we are having a tactical review of my Molebron DaoLockStone build because I have just achieved 7th level! And I am so excited because 7th level is where this build really comes online because we have added Summon Greater Demon along with a whole host of other tricks. So because this build has deviated from the original Molebron DaoLockStone build, which originally went with Pact of the Tome and was using things like Phantom Steed and all of the available rituals, which, by the way, Book of Ancient Secrets is just amazing because you can get any ritual from any class. So that means not only are you adding the amazing ones that wizards get, like Phantom Steed and Tiny Hut and Rary's Telepathic Bond and Contact Other Plane, you're also getting all of the amazing ones that clerics get, for example, like divinations, or the ones that druids get, like Speak with Animals. That's pretty amazing. So I do like Pact of the Tome, but I did deviate from that on this build. I talked about that in the last tactical review about how I preferred the playstyle of summoning right away. And I'm finding that with the magic item system at the Forged Concordance that I can trick out my imp. So I decided to go with Pact of the Chain and yada, yada, yada. So today I wanted to go over my new 7th level character sheet in depth and talk specifically about why I added certain things, how I'm using certain things, what sort of tactics I am deploying based on what sort of scenarios that I've encountered, etc., etc. So without further ado, let's jump into this. I'm going to have to refer to my notes here. So, 7th level, currently at 59 hit points with 10 temporary hit points. So functionally 69 hit points, pretty beefy for a caster, right? AC 14. Haven't changed since I bought my studded leather armor way back at level 2 where I started, and it's not a problem. I never get hit due to my tactics. I go through almost every session never taking any damage whatsoever. When I do take damage, it's often in contrived scenarios where the DM is a little frustrated and suddenly the enemies get a lot smarter, or maybe even some beneficial rules interpretations, if I'll put it that way, to touch me. But generally speaking, I don't take any damage at all, so the 14 AC is not a problem. When I have taken damage, it's due to a hole in my defenses, which I'm going to close at next level, but I'll talk about that here soon. Let's see. Initiative is not great at +2. I have to say, I have often not gone first, and I really don't like that. So I am going to try and fix that. I can't add alert until level 12. But I will try to get like a Sentinel Shield or something where I can get at least advantage on initiative, because, yeah, one of my weaknesses is if they can, act first and then somehow, debilitate me, which has not happened yet, but it is still a possibility, and I want to take that possibility off of the board. So I will be addressing that soon. My saves, not amazing. They're pretty typical of a 7th level character. It's pretty hard to buff your saves in 5th edition. I remember back in the day where I would never fail saves because I just had so many items stacked up and what have you. And yeah, in 5th edition, you fail a lot of saves. So one of the ways that I have mitigated that, though, is through inspiration. One of the things about the Forged Concordance is that if you write a job report after each mission, you get a table inspiration that you can bring into the next session. And so, yeah, I basically always have a reroll available. And so I've been saving it for my saves. And I typically only use it when I really need to make an important save. Now, that said, I don't often have to make saves. Quite frequently, it's like everybody in the party makes saves. Oh, except for Bilbron, because he's in a minor illusion in the last room, or he's, 300 feet away, or he's invisible, or he's hidden, or he's inside a stone shape, or he's in his ring, or he melded into stone, right? But everybody else makes saves, not Bilbron. So I don't actually have to make saves all that often. Let's see. My Save DC is actually 15, and my Eldritch Blast to hit is actually +7 because I have a Rod of the Pact Keeper +1. I'll talk about that at the end when I talk about the items that I have, but, pretty solid. Not amazing, but I'll take it. Then I have good damage. My Genie's Wrath is a +3. My Eldritch Blast, I added Agonizing Blast. I'll talk about that in a minute, but that adds a +3, and I have 2 beams, so yay. I have Inspiring Leader. And I have not ever regretted once taking this. It was something of a departure from my original plan because not actually having played D&D much, I just never realized how amazing being able to cover your entire party, all the mounts, all the familiars, all of the NPCs that you're trying to protect, all of that with temporary hit points is so good. And I kind of got clued into it in the course of gameplay. I added it at 4th level. Never looked back. It's amazing. I brag to people that I have it so that they might want to put me on their team. Now, at this level 7, I gained a new invocation, and I was able to switch out an invocation. So I dropped Cloak of Flies, and I added Agonizing Blast and Eldritch Spear. Very excited for this add. So the reason that I dropped Cloak of Flies is that even though I've had really fun uses of it, because I reskinned it as a lava cloak and it just looks amazing, and I've picked some good role-playing moments to use it, it's not had the impact that I wanted. It hasn't won any battles for me. It's all been kind of like role-playing stuff, and that stuff counts too. Being able to have an impact on the storyline and avoid combats and stuff does make a difference. But I just kept finding myself thinking, I'm in combat like way more than I am in these situations where Cloak of Flies is helping me. I would rather have, some oomph in my Eldritch Blast. Because even though I didn't really plan on using Eldritch Blast a lot, it is my plan B, I end up using it more than I really care to. When my summons get blown away, when Fargar gets blown away, that happens more often than I want, I'm Eldritch Blasting. And so to have a little oomph in them is great. And then the Eldritch Spear is amazing. That 300 feet range is such a good tactic for me because of 2 things. One, I have a bonus action, no concentration fly speed through my elemental gift, and I can teleport with Dimension Door now, which I'll talk about in a minute, up into the sky, or even 90 feet into the air with Thunderstep, and then 30 feet move to get up to 120 feet, where I am basically untouchable, because at 300 feet, almost nothing has that sort of range. I have been kind of tooling myself to fight giants a little bit, and they max out at around 240 foot range. So if I can get myself up to 300 feet range and rain down agonizing spears against people that can't do anything against me, I'll take that all day long. And I'm finding a lot of my adventures are outdoors. A lot of my fights are against creatures that can do nothing versus flying creatures. So it's going to be a very, very powerful tactic for me to get that 300 foot range. And even if I'm not in the air, a lot of the times my first line of ultimate defense is simply starting as far to the end of the map as I can, and on my first action, run 120 feet off the map on my riding horse. And that is usually enough to take me off the board in terms of targeting without having to expend any resources. But it often puts me at a range where Eldritch Blast is not effective, but Eldritch Spear is effective. So yeah, very happy to add that Agonizing Spear combo. Then I did all the calculations for my new offensive output. And as a reminder, my standard DPR baseline is Agonizing Blast plus Hex, hitting 70% of the time. And my elite DPR baseline is a fighter with fighting style archery, crossbow expert, and sharpshooter, hitting 70% of the time, slash 45% if they're using sharpshooter. So that's my elite DPR baseline. And we can see that with all of my damage sources here, I have personally Agonizing Spear, My imp has a variety of attack forms, from the sting alone versus poison immune creatures, to the sting plus poison versus not poison immune creatures, to magic stones, to his tentacle rod. And I'm typically going to be going with the tentacle rod. I'll talk more details about that in a minute. But he's going to be contributing some DPR. And then I have my shadow spawn there because it got a pretty significant bump with my level up. It's now cast at 4th level, so it gets 2 attacks, currently has 50 hit points, has a 15 AC, on top of its powers of Despairing Scream, Dreadful Scream, and Weight of Sorrow, and all of that fun stuff. Bonus action Hide if you use the Shadow version. So, that's really nice. And that's going to be my main go-to because it lasts for a full hour. And a lot of times I'm finding, especially on hex crawls, that, we have time to prep. And so if it takes an hour to clear a hex, having a 1 hour duration summon is very useful because I just send him out there. I have him for the entirety of the time that we're clearing the hex, and I'm able to, send him out way ahead to divert attacks from enemies and ambushes and things like that. And the Barlgura and the Babao are part of Summon Greater Demon, which, I'll talk about the spells that I added, but one of them is obviously Summon Greater Demon. And the Barlgura and the Babao are going to be my go-tos. And we can see that the Barlgura is what I'll be using when I want offense, because it has Reckless Attack, and so it's going to be able to be pumping out that 27 DPR that is really impressive. And it's something of a glass cannon. It only has 68 hit points, low AC, and if it uses Reckless, it's attacked at advantage. So that's actually a good thing, because we kind of want these demons to be glass cannons, because if they break control and then all of the enemies die, they need to be killed by the party. So if they're on death's door, that's usually a little bit easier. However, sometimes you come across big monsters that really hit super hard and super fast, and so would wipe out that Barlgura in just a couple of rounds strictly with melee attacks. In cases like that, I have the Babao. Oh, I should also mention the Barlgura comes with Entangle, so it's nice to give me that control option. The Babao, relative to the Barlgura, is much less damage output, but way tankier. It has 80-something hit points, it has resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, and cold, and fire, and poison immunity, and all that fun stuff, and magic resistance. And even though it does less damage, it has this really cool Weakening Gaze power, which will cut attacks based on strength in half prior to any resistance and stuff being applied. So obviously really nice if you're fighting like a single BBEG that's just laying down tons of powerful strength-based attacks. And the Babao comes with Dispel Magic, Darkness, Fear, Levitate, and Heat Metal at will. So having a platform for Dispel Magic at will is just amazing when casters are laying persistent AoE effects out there. Darkness at will is amazing if you're comboing it with people with double sight, or if you need to, take sight spells off the table. Heat Metal is amazing for, if they're wearing metal, they're attacking at disadvantage. Fear is obvious. I mean, these are all amazing, and it tanks really well. So it can absorb a ton of hits from a really strong creature and still lay out a bunch of punishment. And so if we add up all of my expected DPR from my typical attack sequence of just me throwing down an Agonizing Blast with my action, my Imp using the Tentacle Rod for his action, and my Shadow Spawn making 2 attacks with its action, my DPR is 38.1. That is about 160% of the elite DPR baseline of a fighter with fighting style archery, crossbow expert, and sharpshooter. So pretty solid base output for DPR, but as we see, if conditions are right, I can actually get up to about 300%, which is triple the elite DPR baseline, if I get off 2 Imp attacks at advantage with Sting and Poison, and Barlgura attacks at advantage. Then we're talking like 72 DPR, or double what I was pumping out before. And even if I just find someone that's vulnerable to my imps and his poison damage, I can still pump out 58 points of damage, DPR, just with the imp making 2 attacks normally, and then the Barlgura attacking recklessly. So getting, advantage is kind of built in, so he can get that advantage on attacks at any time. That's really good damage output for a guy that also is throwing out a meat shield and a ton of specialized powers. I mean, I could even throw out a Dybbuk if I wanted Dimension Door at will. And I'm helping out the party with Inspiring Leader and stuff like that. So, yeah, the performance level of this build is very impressive so far. Let's look over my spell selection. So I ended up dropping Darkness. I was just never using it, and I wanted to add 2 4th level spells. And my invisibility bumps up to 3 targets, so that's nice. But I have to say, I haven't used my invisibility at all, really. I used it once. And so I might drop it. We'll see. But yeah, if I find I'm not ever using something, I don't see the point. And then, Summon Shadowspawn and Summon Greater Demon are my go-tos. Summon Shadowspawn is my persistent summon, which is pretty impressive. I mean, you see the numbers. And then Summon Greater Demon is my combat go-to, because I can't keep control of it for the full hour, but it's got, they have very strong options based on the scenario that I need. Do I need a ton of damage? I got Barlgura. Do I need something that can tank? I got Babao. Do I need Entangle, Dispel Magic, Fear, any of that stuff? I got the right one. Dybbuks can Dimension Door and possess things to gain critical intel. So tons and tons of versatility being added through Summon Greater Demon. I think it's the strongest spell in 5th edition, pound for pound, but it's also the most difficult spell to pilot. You have to know these creatures in and out. You have to know that, you can actually get 2 demons on the field, but you have to lose control of the first one. So knowing that the Vrock and the Dybbuk have a +2 charisma and roll it at advantage because they have magic resistance, conferring a 68% chance of them breaking control in the first round and like an 85% chance of them breaking control within 2 rounds. And then when they break control as I want, then I throw out a second summon on top of that. Right, that's the sort of high-level piloting that makes Summon Greater Demon so amazing. But again, you have to really be comfortable with the spell. You have to be able to, very quickly figure out which one of this vast array of powers is most effective and optimal for this particular scenario. So it's an expert play, but man, I'm really excited. I have never played with Summon Greater Demon before. Before this Westmarch server, I only played with one DM in 5th edition, and he banned Summon Greater Demon, which is fine. I was already way too powerful in that campaign, but it was disappointing because it just seems like such a fun spell to me, and I can't wait to do it in the Forged Concordance. Then in my non-concentration options, we see that I've got Meld into Stone for one of my ultimate defense options, and to garner safe long rest. But I also have 3 teleport spells. I got Misty Step, I got Thunder Step, and I got Dimension Door. And I like all 3. I may have to drop one here soon. It'll definitely be Misty Step, but I am not going to be too happy about it, and I am definitely getting some scrolls of Misty Step before that happens, because all of these are great. Misty Step is a bonus action that keeps my action free to do lots of stuff, among others, among which is the ability to use my action to look through my familiar senses. And remember, Misty Step and teleports are sight-based. So it's advantageous to be able to teleport on the bonus action and use my action to see through my familiar's eyes, because if the familiar is in a completely unseen area to me, I can teleport there. So that's very advantageous. Then Thunderstep I like a lot because it has a 90-foot range, but leaves a little kiss in the form of 4d10 thunder damage, which I kind of like. I like doing damage to stuff that has the temerity to try and grapple me, and 90 feet elevation is often enough. That will get you up to 120 feet range, and a lot of times people can't see you up there. If it's dark, they don't have sufficiently high range dark vision, that can be good. But if it's not good enough, I can also use Dimension Door to literally go 500 feet straight up, which is out of range of every ranged attack in the game except for the longbow. And more practically, I can take myself with the Dimension Door 300 feet straight up, because that's the limit of my Agonizing Spear, It's outside the range of most ranged attacks in 5th edition, the longbow and the heavy crossbow, and the short bow being exceptions, or the light crossbow, not the short bow. But yeah, no hurled boulders or spells are going to be reaching you up there. And so the ability you use Dimension Door to get, from ground level all the way up there in one go, held aloft by my bonus action elemental gift fly, then yeah, that's a really powerful tactic against a lot of creatures in 5th edition. All right, and then I have Fine Chain Familiar, nothing special about that. Agonizing Spear and Magic Stone. I always use Magic Stones through Fargar to give him a ranged attack option, which has been very helpful and useful. I have Pass Without Trace through Racial, Minor Illusion. Oh, and Remove Curse. So Remove Curse is something I took because I'm pretty paranoid, and it's pretty rare to encounter people who can remove curses, and if I ever encounter mummies or like whatever else in this game, I don't actually know what else besides mummies, but there's got to be stuff like that can curse you. I want to be able to remove that curse. I'm all about plugging defensive holes. Curses, okay, defensive hole plugged. Now, I will say I might end up dropping it for something better because I haven't used it. But I'm also thinking probably not, because I just need to drop something next level, which can be Misty Step. But then at 5th level, the only spell I really want is Wall of Stone. I don't need to necessarily drop something to add Seeming or Scrying or whatever else I might end up taking at that level. I'll just take Wall of Stone, and I should be able to keep Remove Curse. And that's how I like it. But that's the plan. I am keeping in mind that I might end up dropping it if I just end up never using it. And I don't know, maybe at these higher levels, just it's always available through the party. I don't know. Last thing I want to talk about are my magic items, because there is a robust magic item system here at the Forged Concordance. And I've got a really nice slew of items here, as we can see. So I have a Rod of the Pact Keeper. Absolutely critical for a Warlock. That gets you that critical +1 bump to attacks and to your save DC, and the amazing 3rd slot. You have to use an action. It's only once per long rest, but yeah, you can get a 3rd slot in there besides the 2 that we get per short rest, and that is obviously super, super amazing. So happy with that. Then I just most recently acquired a Tentacle Rod for Fargar, and I'm loving this, because it's something that he can activate without an attack, so can thus proc independently. It has a 15-foot range, so he can fly close to creatures and attack them, and then fly away without incurring an opportunity attack. It has a very high 2-hit at +9, so more connections are always good. And if I hit all 3 of them, then they get this debilitating condition, if they fail a DC 15 con save, of half movement, no reactions, can only do a move or a bonus action, and not both, and disadvantage on dexterity saves. So yeah, even with an end of turn save, that's fantastic, and it's great that it helps keep Fargar relevant coming into mid and late tier 2, because he was pretty fragile, and I was finding anytime I had to send him close to stuff, he could get killed pretty easily. So I was adapting by using a lot of my items, using magic stones, keeping his distance, using cover, stuff like that. But just having this Tentacle Rod is fantastic. No charges, can use it indefinitely. It's a nice, strong, solid attack that I can use with great action economy, because it's coming out of my familiar. Similarly, the Pyro Converger, that has limited uses, probably 3 to 4 on average per day, but it has a 10-foot range. So I can, again, get close, attack, and fly away without an opportunity attack. Again, not an attack, so rules as written should not ruin invisibility. That's up to the DM. I've been finding some resistance about that, and I don't really care. But the rules as written are the rules as written. It's not an attack. Attacking and casting a spell are the only end conditions for invisibility, so therefore it shouldn't. But DMs can run their tables as they want. And the Javelin of Lightning, which just gives me a 1 time per day area of effect that's decent. It's about 48 squares versus the 4 squares of the Pyro Converger versus the, 3 up to 3 enemies of the Tentacle Rod. So that's really nice. Plus, it's also a role-playing trophy because it's made out of that unicorn horn from when we executed that unicorn prince. Yeah. Then I added a stone of level 4 continual flame. I hope people are aware that the darkness spell only defeats magical fires of 2nd level or less. If you have a 3rd or higher level continual flame, it will illuminate the area even if there's a darkness spell there. And this is critical for me because remember that one of my tactics is to go up to 300 feet if I'm facing something with a strong ranged attack or whatever, and rain down hell from above. But that's pretty hard when you can't see. And technically, you're supposed to know their location even if you can't see them because of the sound. But I think it's a pretty hard argument to make that at 300 feet you can hear them. In fact, I would probably argue otherwise, and I would actually argue that you can't hear them at a much closer distance than 300 feet. I mean, even 120 feet seems to me to be out of the range of being able to hear creatures. So, having that stone is very valuable because I can literally drop it from distance or even before I teleport up there and illuminate the area and then teleport up there. Because remember, Dimension Door, you don't have to see, you just have to specify. I want 500 feet up or 300 feet up or whatever. So that sets up perfect obscurement. They literally can't see me, hear me, and I would argue target me at all when I'm at that range, and yet they're illuminated by my stone, so attacks at advantage with my agonizing spear all day long. Well, actually only for a few seconds, because they're probably gonna die here pretty quick, and probably not be able to do anything to me. Not at 300 feet range. Boulders, no. Spells, no. I better hope you have a longbow. And I have a Pot of Awakening, which I have used to create my pet Shrubster. And I have not taken Shrubster on any missions yet. He's extremely fragile, but I'm keeping him in reserve because at some point I expect to be able to get a really cool item through which I can offload my concentration into Shrubster. And I have in mind like a stone of controlling earth elementals, which would be amazing, but that's persistent. I would even take elemental gems. For consumables, they're pretty expensive, but my life is more valuable than any gold. And to have that in my back pocket and have Shrubster that I would be very careful with my placement. I would drop him off and keep him way behind because he only has one role. If I need it, I need you to drop that elemental onto the field to pair up with my demon or shadow spawn so we can get our wreckage on. Because someone is penetrating my defenses, someone is putting the hurt on Bilbron, that's got to stop. So yeah, I will reach into my bag of resources to, pull out the victory. So in any case, that's it. That is a pretty detailed breakdown of Bilbron's current capabilities and the tactics that I like to deploy. And in fact, let me just go over the tactics that I use at a big picture level. I'm an ultimate defense caster plus a summoner. So I use one of my ultimate defense options, the first of which is to be on a riding horse and to ride off the screen. I also have minor illusions that I can set up in the previous rooms that have been cleared if we're talking about a dungeon crawl or whatever. I have my Bottled Respite that I can always retreat into my ring, which can then be handled by Fargar invisibly. I have Meld into Stone, so I can just touch stone and sink right into it and then still operate through my summons. I've got Elemental Gift Fly, so I can just fly out of range of people using Dimension Door as well. So a lot of ultimate defense options. I'm going to be adding Wall of Stone here soon and Stone Shape at the next level. So that's one of my things, make myself completely invulnerable. And then part 2 is to drop devastating summons that meat shield and tank and throw down crazy abilities and bring the hurtin' with damage. And now that Summon Greater Demon is mine, I got all of that. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. This has been Bilbrons and Dragons. I'm your host, Bilbron Battlestone. See you next time.